Welcome to Peace Before Sleep. My prayer for you tonight is simple: that the peace of God surrounds you, settles you, and carries you into deep, refreshing sleep. May you wake up energized and unburdened. Let's rest together. God looked at everything He had made, and it was good, very good. But God knew something was still missing. All these beautiful creatures needed someone to care for them, someone to name them, someone to tend the gardens, someone made in God's own image who could walk with Him and talk with Him and share in the wonder of creation. So God knelt down on the ground, and with His own hands, the same hands that had flung the stars into space and painted the wings of butterflies, He reached down and gathered dust from the earth. Ordinary dust, humble dust, but in God's hands, it became something extraordinary. Carefully, lovingly, like a master sculptor, God formed the dust into the shape of a man. He crafted strong legs for walking and running, gentle hands for creating and caring, a heart for loving, a mind for thinking, eyes for seeing beauty, ears for hearing music. Every detail was perfect. Every part was made with purpose. Then God did something remarkable. He leaned close to the man He had formed, and He breathed His own breath, the breath of life itself, into the man's nostrils. And suddenly, the man's chest rose and fell. His heart began to beat. Thump, 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 thump. Warmth flowed through his body. His eyes, brown and bright, opened for the very first time. He blinked in the golden sunlight, and the first thing he saw was God's face, looking down at him with infinite love. The man drew in a deep breath of sweet, clean air. He could feel the soft grass beneath him, hear the songs of birds in the trees, smell the fragrance of flowers on the breeze. He was alive. God smiled and said, "Your name is Adam," which means from the earth, because that is where he had come from. God had prepared a special place for Adam, a garden paradise more beautiful than any place that would ever exist again. It was located in Eden, which means delight, and delight is exactly what it was. God took Adam by the hand and led him into this magnificent garden. Adam's eyes grew wide with wonder as he looked around. 4 rivers flowed through Eden, their waters crystal clear and sparkling in the sunlight. You could see smooth, colorful stones at the bottom and fish swimming peacefully in the gentle currents. The rivers branched out in 4 directions, watering every corner of the garden, ensuring that everything stayed green and lush and alive. Trees of every kind grew in Eden, some tall and stately, others with spreading branches perfect for climbing. Their leaves rustled softly in the breeze, creating a gentle, peaceful sound. And oh, the fruit! Every tree bore the most delicious fruit you could imagine. Sweet peaches with juice that ran down your chin, crisp apples that crunched when you bit them, soft figs, plump grapes in purple clusters, golden mangoes, and so many others. Flowers bloomed everywhere, roses with petals like silk, lilies pure and white, orchids in exotic shapes, morning glories that opened with the sunrise, and flowers of every color creating a living rainbow across the garden floor. The air was always perfect, never too hot, never too cold. A gentle breeze carried the sweet scent of blossoms and the songs of 1,000 birds. There were no storms, no harsh weather, just endless perfect days and peaceful starlit nights. Animals roamed freely through the garden, but there was no fear, no danger. The lion lay down peacefully with the lamb. The bear played gently with the deer. Every creature lived in perfect harmony. In the center of the garden stood two very special trees. One was called the Tree of Life. Its fruit could give eternal life to anyone who ate it. The other was called the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil. This tree stood as a reminder of choice, of obedience, of trust. God walked with Adam through the garden, showing him everything, explaining how things worked, teaching him about the world he had made. "Adam," God said, his voice kind and loving, "all of this is for you. You may freely eat from any tree in the garden, any tree at all, except one. You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. On the day you eat from that tree, you will surely die." Adam nodded, understanding. It seemed such a simple rule, and with so many other wonderful trees to enjoy, it was an easy rule to keep. God had an important job for Adam. "Come," he said, "I want you to give names to all the animals." One by one, God brought the animals to Adam. Adam studied each one carefully, thinking about what name would suit them best. A great creature with a long trunk came first. "I'll call you Elephant," Adam decided, watching as the elephant sprayed water from its trunk. A tall animal with an impossibly long neck stretched down to look at him. "You shall be called Giraffe," Adam said with a smile. A striped creature pranced by. "Zebra," Adam declared. On and on it went. The roaring one became lion. The one that hopped became rabbit. The one that climbed trees chattering became monkey. The spotted one became leopard. The one with the beautiful voice became nightingale. Adam named the fish in the sea and the birds in the air and every creature that walked on the ground. It took a long time, but Adam enjoyed every moment. But as each animal came by, Adam began to notice something. The elephants came in pairs, male and female. The lions came in pairs. The birds flew in pairs. Every creature had a companion, a partner, someone like themselves to share life with. Adam looked around the garden. It was beautiful, perfect, paradise itself. But as the sun set that evening and the stars came out, Adam felt something he had never felt before. A gentle loneliness, a sense that something was missing. God saw it too. He said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him, a companion, a friend, someone who will be perfect for him." God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. Adam's eyes grew heavy, and he drifted into the most peaceful sleep there beneath the stars of Eden. While Adam slept, God performed a miracle. He carefully took one of Adam's ribs, a part of Adam himself, and from it, God fashioned a woman. She was beautiful beyond description, perfect in every way. Her eyes sparkled with intelligence and kindness. Her smile could light up the darkest night. She was strong yet gentle, wise and full of wonder. God didn't make her from the dust as he had made Adam. He made her from Adam himself, so they would always be connected, always be one, always belong together. When God finished, he looked at the woman and smiled. She was his masterpiece, the crown of creation. Then God gently woke Adam from his sleep. Adam opened his eyes slowly, and the first thing he saw was her, the woman standing before him. His eyes grew wide with joy and wonder. His heart, which had felt so lonely, now felt complete. "At last," Adam exclaimed, his voice filled with happiness. "This is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man." Adam took her hand, and it fit perfectly in his. They smiled at each other, and in that moment, love, true, pure, perfect love, came into the world. God called her Eve, which means life or living, because one day she would become the mother of all living people. God blessed them both and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and care for it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and every creature that moves on the ground. I give you every plant and every tree as food. Everything I have made is yours to enjoy." And so Adam and Eve began their life together in the Garden of Eden. Their days were filled with joy and wonder. Each morning, they woke to the songs of birds welcoming the sunrise. The golden light would filter through the leaves of the trees, creating dancing patterns on the ground. The air would be fresh and sweet, carrying the scent of flowers and fruit. They would walk together through the garden, hand in hand, exploring the beauty around them. Sometimes they would lie in the soft grass and watch clouds drift by, imagining shapes in their white formations. Other times they would sit by the rivers, dangling their feet in the cool, clear water, watching fish swim by. They ate when they were hungry, choosing from the abundant fruit that hung from every tree. Each piece of fruit was perfectly ripe, bursting with flavor and juice. They drank from the pure streams, water so clean and refreshing it tasted like it came from heaven itself. They played with the animals who came to them without fear. Eve would laugh as rabbits hopped around her feet. Adam would sit quietly as butterflies landed on his shoulders, their wings slowly opening and closing. Deer would eat from their hands. Birds would perch on their arms and sing sweet songs. In the cool of each evening, God himself would come down and walk with them in the garden. Can you imagine it? The creator of all things, walking alongside his children, talking with them as a father talks with his beloved children. They would tell him about their day, ask him questions about the world, listen to his wisdom, and simply enjoy his presence. Adam and Eve felt no shame, no fear, no guilt. They wore no clothes, for they had no reason to hide anything. They were innocent and pure, like children, but with the minds and hearts of adults. They knew only good, only love, only joy. They had one simple rule to follow. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Just one tree out of thousands, and with so much to enjoy, so much to explore, so much to be grateful for, it seemed like the easiest rule in the world to keep. Time passed in paradise. Days blended into nights, and nights into days. There was no sickness, no pain, no sorrow, no death. There was only life, abundant, beautiful, eternal life. But in this perfect paradise, there was one creature who was not happy. Among all the animals God had created, one was more cunning, more clever than all the others. It was the serpent. At this time, the serpent could speak, and he moved with grace through the garden. But the serpent was not content. He had listened to God's command to Adam and Eve, and jealousy and wickedness had taken root in his heart. He wanted to ruin the perfect relationship between God and his children. One day, when Eve was walking alone near the center of the garden, the serpent approached her. The sunlight glinted off his scales as he wound his way through the branches of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? The serpent asked, his voice smooth and friendly, as if he were just curious, just asking an innocent question. Eve stopped and looked at the serpent. She wasn't afraid. After all the animals were her friends. She answered honestly, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God said, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die." The serpent's eyes narrowed, and he hissed softly, but his words sounded concerned, even helpful. "You will not surely die," he said, and you could almost believe he was trying to help. God knows that when you eat from that tree, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. He's keeping something from you, something wonderful. Eve looked at the tree more carefully now. She had passed it many times before without much thought, but now, with the serpent's words echoing in her mind, she really looked at it. The fruit did look delicious, round and ripe, with colors that seemed to glow in the dappled sunlight. It looked just as good as the fruit from all the other trees, maybe even better. The serpent had said it would make her wise, that it would open her eyes to things she didn't know. Eve stepped closer to the tree. She reached out her hand, her fingers trembling slightly. The fruit felt smooth and perfect in her palm. For just a moment, she hesitated. God had said not to eat it. God, who had given her everything, who walked with her every evening, who loved her completely. But the serpent's words were so persuasive. The fruit looked so appealing. The promise of being like God, of having wisdom, of knowing more. It was tempting, so very tempting. Eve made her choice. She plucked the fruit from the tree, lifted it to her lips, and took a bite. The fruit was sweet just as she had imagined, but something else happened, something unexpected and terrible. Even as she chewed and swallowed, she felt a change inside herself. It wasn't a good feeling. It was like a shadow had fallen across her heart. She looked around for Adam. When she found him, she held out the fruit. She said, "Taste this." Perhaps she wanted to share what she had discovered, or perhaps she didn't want to be alone in her disobedience. Adam looked at the fruit and then at Eve. He knew where it had come from. He knew God's command, but he loved Eve, and he didn't want to be separated from her. So Adam, with full knowledge of what he was doing, took the fruit and ate it too. The moment Adam swallowed, everything changed. It was as if a light had been switched off in the world. The colors seemed less bright. The air felt different. And inside themselves, Adam and Eve felt something they had never felt before. Shame. They looked at each other, and suddenly they realized they were naked. For the first time, they felt embarrassed, vulnerable, exposed. They quickly grabbed large fig leaves from a nearby tree and sewed them together with rough plant fibers, making crude coverings for themselves. But the coverings couldn't hide what they felt inside. They felt guilty. They felt afraid. They had broken the one rule God had given them. They had disobeyed the one who loved them most. As evening approached, they heard something familiar. The sound of God walking in the garden, just as he did every day. But instead of running joyfully to meet him as they always had before, Adam and Eve did something they had never done before. They hid. They crouched behind the bushes and trees, trying to make themselves invisible, their hearts pounding with fear. God's voice called out, gentle but sad, "Adam, where are you?" Of course, God knew exactly where Adam was. God knows everything. But he was giving Adam a chance to come forward, to be honest, to face what he had done. Slowly, reluctantly, Adam emerged from his hiding place, still trying to cover himself with the fig leaves. His voice shook as he said, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God's voice was sorrowful as he asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" This was Adam's moment to confess, to take responsibility, to ask for forgiveness. But instead, Adam did what humans have done ever since. He blamed someone else. "The woman you put here with me," Adam said, pointing at Eve. "She gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it." He was even blaming God indirectly. "The woman you put here." God turned to Eve. "What is this you have done?" Eve too shifted the blame. "The serpent deceived me and I ate." No one took responsibility. No one said, "I was wrong. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." God's heart was broken. His children, whom he loved so much, had disobeyed him. They had trusted the serpent's lies instead of God's truth. And now, because of their choice, everything would have to change. First, God turned to the serpent. "Because you have done this," God said, his voice filled with judgment, "you are cursed more than all animals. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel." The serpent fell to the ground. His beautiful form changed forever, cursed to crawl in the dust. Then God turned to Eve, his voice sad but firm. "I will greatly multiply your pain in childbearing. You will bring forth children in pain. You will desire your husband, and he will rule over you." Eve's eyes filled with tears. She understood that life would no longer be easy and carefree. To Adam, God said, "Because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree I commanded you not to eat from, cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return." Adam's shoulders slumped. No longer would food simply appear on trees ready to eat. Now he would have to work hard, struggle, sweat, and toil to grow food. And one day, his life would end. Death had entered the world. But even in this moment of judgment, God showed mercy and love. He looked at Adam and Eve in their crude fig leaf clothing and took pity on them. God himself killed an animal, the first death in paradise, and made garments of skin for Adam and Eve, clothing them properly, covering their shame. This was the first sacrifice, the first blood shed because of sin. It pointed forward to a future day when God would provide another sacrifice, another covering for sin, another way for humanity to be reconciled to Him. Then God said something that showed both His justice and His mercy. The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. If Adam and Eve ate from the tree of life now, in their sinful state, they would live forever in their broken condition, forever separated from the perfection they once knew. Death, painful as it was actually a mercy. It meant this state of sin and suffering would not last forever. So God did what He had to do. With a heavy heart, He sent Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. Imagine that moment. Adam and Eve walked slowly toward the garden gate, looking back over their shoulders at the only home they had ever known. They saw the rivers sparkling in the sunlight, the trees heavy with fruit, the flowers blooming in every color, the animals playing peacefully. They saw the places where they had laughed together, where they had walked with God, where they had lived in perfect joy. Tears streamed down their faces as they realized what they had lost. They walked through the gate, and the gate closed behind them with a finality that broke their hearts. God placed cherubim, mighty angels, on the east side of the Garden of Eden, along with a flaming sword that flashed back and forth, guarding the way to the tree of life. No one would be able to return to paradise, not now. Adam and Eve found themselves in a new world, a world outside Eden. It was still beautiful, but not like Eden. Here there were thorns and thistles. Here they would have to work hard to survive. Here they would experience pain and sorrow. Here they would eventually die. Adam and Eve had to learn to live in this new world. Adam worked the ground just as God had said. He planted seeds and tended crops. His hands, which had only known gentle work in Eden, now became calloused from hard labor. Sweat ran down his face as he worked under the hot sun. Eve prepared their simple shelter, gathered berries and roots, and learned to cook over fire. Her hands, which had only picked ripe fruit from trees, now worked hard every day. But even in their new, difficult life, Adam and Eve remembered God. They remembered His love, His mercy, and even His promise. When God had cursed the serpent, He had said that one day a descendant of Eve would crush the serpent's head. Somehow, some way, what had been broken would be repaired. Time passed. Eve became pregnant, and she gave birth to a son. She named him Cain, saying, "With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man." Later she had another son named Abel, and then more children. Humanity began to multiply and spread across the earth. Adam and Eve told their children about Eden, about the perfect garden they had lost, about the one mistake that had changed everything. They taught them about God, about His love, about His holiness, about obedience. But they also taught them about hope. Hope that one day God would fix what had been broken. Hope that one day the relationship between God and humanity would be restored. And so, dear one, that is the story of Adam and Eve, a story of creation and beauty, of love and disobedience, of consequences and hope. It reminds us that choices matter, that our decisions have consequences, that God's rules are for our good. But it also reminds us that even when we fail, even when we disobey, God still loves us. He still provides for us. He still has a plan. Adam and Eve lost paradise, but the story didn't end there. Throughout all of history, God has been working to bring His children back to Him, to restore what was lost, to heal what was broken. Now close your eyes and rest peacefully. Dream of gardens and rivers, of walking with God, of a love that never fails. And remember that you are precious, you are loved, and you are part of God's great story. May your dreams be sweet, may you rest deeply, and may you wake tomorrow refreshed and filled with wonder at the beautiful world God has made. Good night.